Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Daily English Talk. I'm so happy you're here with me again. And as always, I want to gently remind you to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss new episodes that will help you speak English more naturally, more confidently, and more like a real native speaker. My name is Emily, and I'm your host. And today we're going to have a long, relaxed talk about daily conversations you must know to speak English naturally. So just imagine that we're sitting together somewhere cozy, maybe in a quiet cafe, or just walking slowly through the city, and we're simply talking about life, about feelings, about random everyday things, because that's exactly how real English sounds. It's not perfect, it's not robotic, it's warm, emotional, and spontaneous, so let's just start the way we always do in real life. Hey, how are you doing today? And maybe you say, I'm okay. A little tired, but fine. And I smile and say, yeah, I get that. Today feels a bit heavy, doesn't it? And you nod because you feel understood. And that's already communication, that's connection, and that's what English should be for you. Not pressure, not fear, not perfection, just expression and comfort. And maybe I ask you, so what have you been up to lately? And you think for a second and say, honestly, just work and trying to keep up with everything. And I softly laugh and say, yeah, life can get pretty overwhelming sometimes. It feels like the days just blend together, one after another. And you agree, because it's true. And then maybe you ask me, what about you, Emily? And I say, well, I've been recording episodes, planning new content, trying to stay creative, and also reminding myself to slow down sometimes. And that feels natural, doesn't it? Just two people sharing their reality. And that's the way English should feel in your mouth too. And then the conversation flows like it always does, without force, without pressure, and maybe we start talking about simple everyday things like the weather. And I say, wow, it's been so hot lately, I can barely breathe outside. And you laugh and say, I know, I wasn't ready for this heat at all. And I respond, yeah, same. I keep checking the forecast, but it keeps surprising me. And this is such a typical, normal exchange you might hear anywhere, at work, at school, on the street, and you start realizing that English isn't this scary, complicated monster. It's just people talking about life. And now, maybe I look at you and ask, so how was your day? And you say, it was pretty busy, honestly, but not terrible, just a lot going on. And I nod and say, yeah, those days can really drain your energy. And then maybe I add, but hey, at least it's over now. And you smile because that's comforting. And then maybe I say, so are you doing anything later? And you shrug and say, probably just going home and relaxing. And I say, honestly, that sounds perfect. Sometimes doing nothing is exactly what we need. And then we naturally move to plans and invitations because that's part of life too. And I say, hey, do you want to grab coffee sometime? And you hesitate for a second, but then smile and say, yeah, that would be nice. And I reply, cool, just let me know when you're free. And that right there is a perfect natural exchange. Simple, real, human, not stiff, not overly formal, just normal spoken English. And the more you hear this kind of rhythm, the more your own speech will start to feel like this too. And that's the power of immersive listening. Now, maybe the topic changes again, because conversations are never linear. They jump, they flow, they evolve. And I might say, lately I've been feeling a bit overwhelmed, like there's so much to do and not enough time. And you look at me and say, yeah, I feel that too. It's been the same for me. And that moment creates connection. And I smile and say, I'm trying to take it one day at a time. And you nod and say, that's a good approach. And you're right, it is. And then maybe I joke and say, or I just need a vacation and disappear for a while. And you laugh and say, honestly, same. And just like that, humor becomes part of the conversation, making it lighter, warmer, more human. And now let's imagine we're talking about food, because food is always a good topic. And I say I'm starving right now. And you ask, what are you craving? And I say, honestly, something comforting, maybe pasta or a good sandwich. And you reply, oh, that sounds so good. And I say, yeah, I might treat myself later. And these little everyday phrases are what make your English sound natural, not overly polished, not too academic, just real. Then maybe we start talking about opinions, and you say, did you see that new movie? And I say, yeah, I did. And honestly, I thought it was pretty good, but the ending was kind of disappointing. And you say, really, I actually like the ending. And I smile and say, fair enough. It just wasn't what I expected. And you go, see, this is normal too. People disagree, and it's okay. And the way you express that is through calm, natural language. Not aggression, not tension, just respect and honesty. Now imagine we keep walking, talking, sharing, and you start telling me about your week, and you say, it's been stressful, but I'm trying to stay positive. And I say, I'm proud of you for that. That's not easy? And you smile. And that smile means you're not just learning English. You're living it. You're connecting through it. And then the topic shifts to daily routines, because that's something people always talk about. And I ask, so what's your typical morning like? And you say, I usually wake up, check my phone, make some coffee, and try to mentally prepare myself for the day. And I laugh and say, wow, that sounds extremely familiar. And you laugh too, because it's true for so many of us. And that shared experience builds comfort, and comfort builds fluency. And as we keep talking, you realize that this isn't a lesson, it's a conversation. And that's exactly what this podcast is meant to be. Because real language lives in moments like these, in pauses, in smiles, in tone, not just in grammar rules. And as we slowly approach the end of this first part, I just want to remind you again that you're doing amazing, that every minute you spend listening is improving your English, even if you don't feel it yet. And if you're enjoying this relaxed conversation and want to continue learning like this, don't forget to subscribe to Daily English Talk, because this is your space to grow, your space to practice, and your space to feel confident. And now we smoothly move into the second part of our conversation, like two friends who just keep talking without even noticing how much time has passed. So here we are, still talking, still sharing, still in this warm, relaxed flow. And maybe now you look at me and say, you know what, Emily? Sometimes I feel nervous speaking English. And I gently smile and say, that's completely normal. Even native speakers get nervous expressing themselves sometimes. The key is to remember that language is not about perfection. It's about connection. And you nod because that makes sense. And then I add, the more you speak, the more natural it becomes. And one day you'll realize you're not translating in your head anymore. You're just speaking. And that moment will feel incredible. And then maybe you tell me about a situation where you had to use English in real life, maybe at work or when traveling, and you say, I was scared, but I tried anyway. And I smile brightly and say, that's exactly how progress happens. Through courage, through effort, through stepping out of your comfort zone, and that's already something to be proud of. And now, the conversation flows again into something lighter. And I say, what do you usually do to relax? And you say, I like listening to music or watching shows. And I respond, yeah, same. Sometimes I just need to turn my brain off for a bit. And you laugh and say, I feel that so much. And that phrase right there, I feel that, is very natural modern English. And it shows emotional understanding, not just agreement. And we continue talking about dreams, about the future, about where you see yourself in a few years. And you say, I want to be more confident, more independent, maybe travel more. And I say, that sounds beautiful. And I believe you can achieve it. And those words feel real because they are. And then maybe silence falls for a moment, but it's not awkward, it's peaceful. And I softly say, you know what? I really enjoy conversations like this. And you smile and say, me too. It feels easy, and that's what language should feel like. Easy, natural, human. And as we keep talking, we go through all the layers of daily life, small talk, deep talk, jokes, complaints, dreams, laughter, and all of it is English. All of it is practice. All of it is growth, and before you even notice, you're thinking in English, feeling in English, living in English. And now, as our long conversation slowly comes to its natural end, I look at you with warmth and say, I'm really glad you spent this time with me today. And you reply, thank you, I enjoyed it. And I smile and say, we'll continue soon. And I mean it. And before we say goodbye, I want to remind you one more time, if you want to keep improving your English through natural conversations just like this, make sure you subscribe to Daily English Talk, because every episode is created to help you feel more confident, more fluent, and more comfortable speaking real-life English. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for learning with me. This is Emily, and I'll talk to you again very soon. Take care, keep practicing, and never stop believing in your progress.